The Central Bank of Nigeria has issued a directive to 4 fintech companies instructing them to halt the onboarding of new customers pending further notice. The affected fintechs OPay, PalmPay, Kuda Bank and MoneyPoint have been linked to allegations of accounts being used for illicit foreign exchange transactions. The CBN also cited the need to preserve the funds in the identified bank accounts pending the conclusion of the investigation and possible prosecution. However, representatives from 2 of the companies said that the directive might be misdirected as the majority of the implicated accounts belong to commercial banks, not fintech platforms. Now, earlier on, I spoke to the former Deputy Director and Head Banking Services Division at the CBN, Margaret Ogundana, to get her reaction to the CBN's move. I began by asking her why fintech companies in the country were faced with increased regulatory scrutiny over their account opening processes.
Oh, wonderful question. I'm sorry I disagree with you on that. Central Bank of Nigeria will not witch hunt anybody, any institution in the financial sector. You know, the role of central bank is to promote and groom the financial sector. And look at the capacity of Nigeria. And let's look at the background issues. Why did they allow the fintechs to operate in the first instance? It was part of the financial inclusion program, and also to enable those of them who didn't have accounts in the banks to be banked, not unbanked, especially those of them in the invisible trade sector, where they operate largely using cash, transfers and cash for transactions. So it was a good idea. And if you recall, those fintechs came on board during the COVID season. So they have enabled the banking industry to expand its focus, because all those fintechs, they all have accounts with the banks. If you transfer money to MoneyPoint or do a transaction to Pay or whichever, or Kuda, all of them have bank accounts with these major banks. And by bringing them on board, it has enabled, one, the financial industry to expand its focus. But now the challenge, it has to do with the Naira, the value of the Naira. So central bank is not witch hunting. I think they're just trying to sanitize the industry. And sanitizing the industry means it has to be wholesome. It has to be all-encompassing. So I'm not surprised that the fintechs have been asked to halt registration of new customers. I think that is what I want to say on that. I think it's a good idea, really, because at the end of the day, those fintechs have not only added value to the financial services in the Nigerian industry with respect to banking, they've also helped to curb the issue with respect to so much money flowing outside the banking system, which is not recorded in the mainstream banking. So now with the fintechs, everybody have OPay accounts, everybody have MoneyPoints, everybody put down what have you. And because their KYC is not as rigid, it's not as no administrative rigmarole. All you need is to have your mobile number, and then you have an account in any of those banks, and they bring you on as a customer. So it's very easy for everybody to operate using those fintechs. So I don't think they're being witch hunted, but I think they are trying to sanitize the industry so as to enable the Naira to have its own rightful place and value.
The instruction by the CBN to fintech companies to halt operations temporarily has generated fear in their customers who worry over the safety of their funds. Now, as a financial expert, what are the risks associated with patronizing these fintech companies?
I don't think there's a lot of risk involved, if you ask me. But there's a limit to their operations. There are some terms of references beyond which they cannot go. They are not banks. They are just online fintechs that provide us with online services, and they make things a lot easier for us. So I don't think we customers of those fintechs should exercise any fear. There's not so much risk because there's a limit to which they can go. But if you look at what is going on nowadays, in addition to the central bank wanting to sanitize the industry, and by extension, including anybody in the financial services industry, including these fintechs, there has been rumor that a lot of them are being used for money laundering. There's rumor that a lot of them are just rent seeking. If you have an OPay account or Kuda or whatever, if you want to take a loan, there's a limit to which you can. So customers don't need to exercise any fear. Once you have a central bank coming on board, that means there must be sanitization. And if you look at the value of our domestic currency, the Naira, its purchasing power parity has been very low. What I mean by that is that the value of the Naira against its major trading currencies, especially those international ones, they have not been very exciting. And you know that we have a very big economy. So if central bank now comes out to say, look, we want to look at whatever loopholes or leakages we have, we want to ensure that there's nothing that will that bring the Naira down anymore. They will look at the loopholes and block it. They look at leakages and block it. So if it is true that these rumors we had that some of them are being used for money laundering or rent seeking somewhere along the line, I know central bank is now coming on board to sanitize, not to discourage, to sanitize, not to create undue distractions. But they want to probably bring them on board. And at the end of the day, I'm sure those fintechs will be more strengthened than what we have now. And also going by what is going on in the Nigerian industry, the government is trying to attract foreign investments. So it must put its house in order. It must try and stabilize the Naira, because the Naira is the symbol and the focus of our economy, and is the currency through which all transactions that has to do with this nation must be used. So that is why I believe central bank simply wants to sanitize. They won't scare anybody, and they won't scare any customer. So I think we should rest our case on the fact that at the end of the day, with that sanitization coming on, I think everybody will be the best for it, because Nigeria is such a big economy. Even the banks don't have branches everywhere. But you see Kuda, all those fintechs, they're all over the place, which I think is a very delightful thing that they are aboard. And I think people should not be scared, but just let's succumb ourselves to whatever central bank wants us to do. And then at the end of the day, the Naira should be stronger, it should be stabilized, and everybody, all customers, will find a lot of things easy.